Welcome to Stone Salon.
Yeah.
Every Thursday night at 8:15, we try to have a little bit of conversation, poetry, some music. And tonight we are going to share something that is very, very dear to us. And that is a program that we've been participating in for a few years now, really been years. It used to be that we would meet once a month on Sunday at CRC, but since COVID hit our world, we've decided to meet every week at 1 o'clock virtually. And it's been really a very holy experience for us, sharing time each week with friends who live with um, mental health issues, mental illness, or live with someone who lives with mental illness. We've really become quite a community. And yet, what I've noticed is when new people come into the group, it seems to be quite easy, wouldn't you say, Ellen? So I'm going to ask Jim to kind of talk a little bit about how we came to doing Lo Shanda, what it is, and then we have some uh, wonderful people with us who uh, have experience at this group as well. They're part of our family.
So we started. I don't know. I was involved in starting a mental health effort in our community about 20 years ago, and it was kind of a more organized thing. And we had some funding and this and that. And the community got in its own way. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it, but we had a we had a good model. We worked hard to create it, and then we fell flat. It left a real empty place in the community, a place where there was no activism of this kind in our community that was focused on mental health. So we decided to reconstitute ourselves and to just get up and start cooking, just start getting to work. That was almost 10 years ago, the second effort. This time, uh, it might have been wise. I don't know if we were wise or not wise. We didn't depend on any community support. So we were much more successful in terms of serving people.
Yeah.
And nobody got in our way. We just started doing this thing and started meeting, and we started taking it out to community. We would meet in our own meeting once a month. And, I frankly, I was a little bit skeptical myself that a once a month meeting could really be profound for what we wanted to do with people and provide the service for people. Once a month is it's not that demanding, and you can't get that kind of continuity that you need when you do something like this. When you dive deep, and provide a place for people to express themselves in such personal and non-theoretical ways, let's say, about their lives, about my life. But it worked. And another example of I shouldn't assume that I know. I think I know, but I don't. I think I know, but I don't. Keep my mind open and my big mouth shut. I think I know, but I don't. So we just kept doing it. And Susie came in on it, and
Well, I think I gave a sermon one year
yeah,
about the Shanda around mental health, mental illness issues. And we said we were going to start a meeting at the synagogue. And that's what we did.
yeah, and then some of the obstacles to our institutional efforts changed, and there was a new king arose over Egypt.
At the JFNS, right?
No, that's right. So
Yeah.
we just got a new regime, and a renewed effort and more support from our community,
Mm-hmm.
and then a representative from the agency in our community that really deals with this kind of thing. We were amateurs in all the best sense and worst sense in both senses. Amateurs in the sense that we had no training for this, but in the best sense of amateur, we really had heart for this. We had a heart for this. So the Jewish Family and Children, then the Jewish Family and Children's Service, now
Jewish Family
Jewish
Service.
Family Service, they asked one of their employees if they would be a kind of representative at our group, and that's Pat on the call on the screen here.
Hi, Pat.
So Pat came into our group and he became a really important part of the group because uh, we could kind of answer people's needs. We could respond to people's needs like right away through Pat. It was just so great.
She knew the resources and the toolbox in the community that's available.
And we didn't have to go through all the
Right.
hurdles that we used to have to go through to get people matched up with the kind of help they need. So it really
Really made a difference.
made a big difference. So we asked Pat to be on with us tonight too, because we really appreciate her. Her presence in the group has been really important for everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.
And then everybody else can say what they want. We're in our remote location here, so this I don't know what the sounds are, but there's cicadas, and every once in a while I do a song, and who knows what, read a piece and this and that. So maybe I'll start with that piece. I like to read a piece about. I'll tell you where this renewed effort came from. Like I said, there was a kind of an official effort. Ellen was a part of it. That ended abruptly. There was a couple of years where nothing was happening, and we felt that there was a big space in the community. So one summer during that period where nothing was happening in this area, as we do every summer at this time, we were studying in the book of Deuteronomy. That's what I was teaching. And for some reason, now, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been teaching this for a long time in this schedule, but that summer, I think it was 2011, the words on the page of the book of Deuteronomy grew feet and scampered off the page, or the words grew wings and flew off the page, or the words grew arms and grabbed me by the collar and said to me, this justice notion is not theoretical. You have to put it to work in your community. Put it to work in the most neglected places. And that's what the text communicated to me. And I wrote a piece called Deuteronomy Speaking. And the book spoke to me and said, get started. So that fall of 2011 is when we reconstituted this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a profound experience for me that this text spoke to me in such a way that fall I started a prison outreach concept. The first time that there was a rabbinical presence in the prisons in our state. And that same fall of 2011, we started this portion of this enterprise, and it all came out of the book. So I didn't want to forget that part of it, because I love that to me it's interesting and wonderful that the book began to speak to me in such a way. So I wrote a piece that I wrote it so that I wouldn't forget that that's where these efforts came out of. And I'm going to read that piece to you. Actually, I could bring it up on the screen. That might be more interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'll just read it. It's a nice piece. It's called. Say what?
Don't forget that Pat can't do very long.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's a short piece. Susan wants to make sure that I don't tell a story too long about people that nobody knows, which I could do. I could do. That's it. It could happen. So I'm going to read this piece. It's, it has disappeared.
We do begin the book
All
of
right.
Deuteronomy this week.
Give ear, O heavens. Somebody, give ear, O heavens, and I will speak. Listen, earth, to the words of my mouth. I stood on a rock with you. You were wrapped in a talus of light, and there I was given forgiveness for all of us. When I came down the mountain, my face was fire, and on that fire, a mask. If we believe in justice, it is a double course justice. If we believe compassion, there is no stranger, or we are all strangers, not just then, but always. If we believe in good, there is good and only good. You are endlessly forgiving, compassionate. When will you abandon us? Never. So that was that piece. I wrote the piece. I said to myself, I don't want to forget that moment that these efforts arose out of that kind of purity, the purity of the pursuit of justice. It was a justice notion for me at first that we needed to bring these efforts to, at that time, it felt to me the most neglected element in our community and the most neglected subject, which was mental health, mental illness, and also prison. People that were in prison had never. So that's what we did. So now we got a good thing going, and Susie and I really look forward to this meeting every Sunday. I think it's been a really powerful, beautiful thing. And there's even been, I think, some advantage in the COVID time because it inspired, it kind of nudged us to go to weekly meetings. I say, now we can go to weekly meetings, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
And we check in. I mean, there's always an element of learning and then an element of checking in and just making connections between people, especially now when people feel so isolated. Um, I know that Pat Harris isn't able to stay too long tonight. So I don't know, Pat, if you want to say something about,
Oh,
participating in the group, bringing Jewish family service there.
sure. I mean, my job there is financial social worker. I was first asked to be a part of the group because the goal was to move me to mental health case manager. That kind of went by the wayside with the whole pandemic. Like nobody's really worried about filling it, but that's okay. There's so much crossover. Between financial assistance, where you start to find out that so many people financially cannot get ahead because of their mental illness. And even if they're not going to get out there, get a job and all that stuff, they need their resources. They need to be hooked up with disability. They need to be hooked up with housing they can afford, food. They're all really important things. And I've learned that I need to kind of be aware of who's coming in, and if they're coming back months and months and nothing's happening in their life, although they want it to, you start to look going, wow, do you possibly have major depressive disorder? Right. So there's a lot of crossover, a lot of carryover. But in the meantime, I'm happy to be here. I miss all the members who are not able to get on the group because they don't have cell phones, smartphones, computers. But the weekly, I know, is a big help for a lot of people right now, including me.
Well, we love having you part of the family.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. When somebody calls me, I'm careful to note, like, this person was referred to me through Noshanda. For me being there, that made a difference, and that they felt like they could call. So I make sure that the agency knows that it makes a difference. So.
I just was thinking of this while you were talking, that I remember, and I can't even remember how long ago this was. It was easily, I know it was over 20 years ago, maybe even more. But there was a guy that was on the cover of the Riverfront Times who was Jewish that was homeless. And that was kind of, I don't know, it was the Reverend Times or West County Times, but they made this big deal about it because he was Jewish and he was homeless, like that didn't exist. And, you know,
I have 2 or 3 homeless clients or families at a time, and they're Jewish.
I know. And people just in the Jewish community could not believe that there was somebody, this one guy, you know, who probably there were more, but he was the one guy that, you know, that they just could, it was a shanda. It was not only a shanda, but it was like gossip. It was like, you know, did you see that, you know, you went to high school with this guy, you know, and all this stuff. And I one other thing to add was that, I found whenever I used to do a group a long time ago for Jewish people with mental illness, and it was hard to get people to come because they kept saying, "Oh, you know, I'm not as sick as all the other people are. You know, everybody's got it worse than me." And I used to kind of like laugh to myself and think like, if everybody thinks everybody else is worse than them, then everybody must be doing really badly. You know. So, you know, I mean, what we're doing with Ashanda is wonderful because, like Jim said, we're not affiliated with any agency. We don't have to answer to anybody. We can do our own thing, you know, and it's a very intimate exchange of things we go through. It's like, it's okay. It's okay to be mentally ill in this group. And, you know, I know that's what I feel. I look forward to the most is that part of myself I could feel okay about, you know, in this group. So
I was thinking today about how there used to be a shanda about cancer.
Yeah.
And
This still is in some circles.
a couple of years back when my sister-in-law got cancer, her friends all would make meals for her and clean her house and stuff. And we have to keep it silent. And, you know, like I said before, we face a stigma that's almost as painful as the disease itself, which is too bad because I tried to Google the mortality rate of, let's say, bipolar, and it's pretty high, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think that Shonda can help that at all. You know, it's just not helpful.
So,
Well, so let me just say, Pat, feel free to sign off whenever you need to, you know, and
Okay.
We appreciate you being here.
Pat Harris, I mean, because she needs to.
Yeah, I've got till 10 till 9. I have somewhere to be at 9 o'clock. And then
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
great.
good.
Well, I just want to make sure that.
bye, Pat.
Hi, Susan.
So anyway,
And that was Pat.
Yeah.
Another
We
Pat.
got 2 Pats.
Yeah.
2 Pats.
You know, who's really been a very, very important part of the group, and also goes to the Independence Center, which, you know, I think bringing that presence to our group has also been wonderful, because that's a great resource in the community that a lot of people don't know about.
Really
So
is.
there really are a lot of people in Loshanda who are dealing with their own kinds of, I would say, functional kinds of mental health issues. When I first came to Loshanda, I really came to kind of check it out for a couple of adult children that I have known all my life, and to see if the group was appropriate for them. As it turned out, it wasn't. And I kind of found a home in Lashanda. I really like the people. I have had in my family and in my own history, a history of anxiety. Other members of my family have had serious depression. And very often when we look around the table, there are people there who would say they're not really the ones that are suffering from mental illness, like a couple who's, I actually presided over these grandparents getting guardianship of their granddaughter because their daughter suffered from mental illness, and they really had to step in. So, for me, it's kind of a continuum between my own personal life and my own professional life. But there are just some wonderful people there. And if there was ever a stigma about people who are suffering from mental health issues, come on out to a meeting of Loshanda, and you'll see people that look like you, that are your next door neighbors, and people who have courage to step forward, because the people that are suffering in the Jewish community and elsewhere from mental illness are lonely. And as Jim always says, let no one go dark or be alone, because we're not there for them. And it really, I hope this motivates other people that are listening tonight on the show. This is the Jim and Susan show. To come out to a meeting, to tell somebody who might benefit. This isn't a treatment program. Nobody's prescribing medicine. Nobody's doing therapy. People are really just listening, and they're caring. And I remember when one of our members, her mom died, and it was very, very hard for her. And I went to the Shiva, and there was Pat and Susan and Jim. And, I know that meant the world to her, because she is a person who has spent a lot of time being in aloneness.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sis. Thank you. Yeah.
Let me also explain the concept here. Usually we begin by explaining what we do here on Thursday night, because sometimes people check in who aren't really familiar with what we're doing, and also why our faces are right up against the screen. And also the I like to explain the hair to face ratios here. This is a larger hair to face ratio. Not a large hair to face ratio. And it's also so strange to see yourself in the screen, but we don't have earphones. We got to get earphones, because it's kind of hard for us to hear. So that's why we're like peering into the screen here. We're trying to pick up every syllable. So you'll have to excuse us. I'm sure it looks funny, but that's the way the deal is. So what we do here on Thursday night, we started doing this thing called the Salon before the pandemic hit. And we were doing it, it was kind of an arts, poetry, music extravaganza at the High Low, a really nice place in town here that was open new, called the High Low, dedicated to literary arts. And I was doing once a month on Thursday night, I was doing this thing called a Salon, a notion that I picked up when we lived in Jerusalem. And there was a guy, a wonderful man there who was influential in my life, Professor Dov Noy. And he had been trained, he was a professor at Hebrew University. He had been trained here in the States at Indiana University. And he brought back this concept where his teacher, Stith Thompson, had done this Quaker kind of salon, he called it, where you'd go to his house and you'd sit in his house at Dov Noy's. It was Monday nights, and you went around the room and you just said what you were into. And then every so often somebody would sing a song, somebody would read a poem, somebody would do, and you just talk about what you're into. So I used to go, and it was just really wonderful. And opened up a lot of doors for me. I mean, I met the most interesting people there. And I was invited because I could do music. They wanted, Dov Noy, he loved music. So I'm not that interesting, but I could do a tune, So when he would come to the States, he would come here frequently and do these lectures. He was quite well known. And he would always contact me. He would say, "Will you come and open the lecture with a song?" So he would do these straight academic lectures, and I would open with the song, his lectures, and it was just really a dear thing. So I said to myself, if we ever get the opportunity, I'd love to do this concept. So that we started doing it at the High Low, and then everything closed down. And so Susie and I were talking, and we said, why don't we just do it here? Let's do a salon like here. Let's take it on screen, and let's take it. Sometimes we'll do music. Sometimes we'll do poetry. Sometimes we'll do storytelling. Sometimes we'll talk about a subject. Sometimes we'll have a little academic talk, and we've done all of that. And so we mix it up. People come in, come out, and sometimes we interview people. Sometimes we just have a conversation. So that's what this concept is. And it's been a delightful thing to do. We've enjoyed doing it a lot, haven't we?
But this is a really special night for us. I know we're going to have some music, and we always have poetry, but to have our Lo Shonda family on the screen too, to have a few of you here really means a lot, because I love how we share
Oh, is this
strength.
Can you hear us okay?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
How we share, I always learn something from the meetings. People are just so open and honest about their experience, about their relationships, about struggles. And what's so beautiful to me, and we went through our own very difficult time while we were doing Shonda. We never really stopped. And it just helps not to have to hide, you know, your feelings, and know that people are okay with that, and they don't try to fix it. They just kind of accept you for where you are and who you are, and see the beauty. We see the beauty even in our brokenness. And I think one of the reasons we thought it would be really important to do this now, and to have our Lo Shonda family on tonight, is tonight. This is the first of Av. So this is the new moon of the month of Av. And these are what's called in the Jewish calendar, the 9 days. These are like the 9 most intense days in the Jewish calendar, for sadness, for mourning, for grief, for recognizing the brokenness. The 9th day is Tisha B'Av, or the 9th of Av, that very sad, horrible, awful day where the temples were destroyed, where the Inquisition happened, where, all the bad things that happened in Jewish history, they happened on Tisha B'Av. At least that's what we say. But it's also the day that the Messiah is going to be born. And the day after Tisha B'Av, the day after that day, begins this ascent of 7 weeks. This ascent
7 weeks of consolation.
Right. That takes us to the new moon of Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah, the new year. When, like it or not, and it may be virtual, but we will have to stand with each other and wish each other a Shana Tova, a Happy New Year, ready or not, like it or not. And so, if people are feeling particularly heavy right now, it's heavy. It's a heavy time.
It's a heavy time.
It's a heavy time, but if we do the work, if we feel it, if we let ourselves do the work and we hold on to each other, we will get to a different place, hopefully a better place.
I think it's important that we read the prelude to every meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It says that we're talking about subjects we're not comfortable airing out in public.
Mm-hmm.
But it all converges on mental illness, drug use, incarceration. They all come together because a lot of people, because of the stigma, won't see a doctor.
Right.
And get a diagnosis. They'll try and self-medicate with whatever's available to people that don't have a medical degree.
When anybody ever talks about mental illness, it always comes down to the stigma. I think that's the virus of mental illness, because on every level of it, people are ashamed, or they stereotype, or they it's a shanda, and I think that one thing by us meeting, that we're contributing towards getting rid of that shame and that stigma, because every time a group starts, new people get together and talk about things that they never really had anybody to talk to before, And this group is so special because, it's because we get to talk about this. And I'll tell you the truth, it's kind of interesting doing it in your own home because you have the privacy of your own home, the comfort of your own home, and I love to see how other people are living. I love to look at their decorations on their wall. But, it's like a very intimate thing for each of us because we're sharing our feelings and our thoughts and we're in our own homes. And, it's just one of the things that makes it special.
I think it was also important, like before the virus, we would make sure that we took took the notion to the community
Right.
once or twice a year. So we would do a
Big meeting.
big meeting at another location, like at the JCC, or usually it was always at the JCC, I guess.
Mhm.
At the JCC, a community place, so we could demonstrate the model. So if other people wanted to recreate it, they could see what we're doing. And not that we were giving lectures or anything, we were actually demonstrating the model. We would actually hold a meeting and give a talk and this and that. And everybody on these screens would participate in that. And I think that was also an important thing, that offering we made back to the community, though I'm not sure that went, who knows what shores that washed up on. We just don't know. I need to drink some water.
Yeah.
No, every once in a while, once a year, they have a show at Washington University Medical Center about artwork that's done by people with mental illness in the community. And I was interested. There was this display about depression and anxiety among medical students.
Wow.
And it's off the charts high. Right now, that's kind of something that everybody's dealing with, and they can all understand to some extent what it feels like.
Like I often write about
Great point.
about what we're doing because it's, for one thing, it's just like Susie says, it's so startling for me personally. It was just so enriching and wonderful to be a part of this thing, to watch people doing such hard work in our perimeter is so inspiring, I guess you'd say. It lifts all of us, and everybody's lifted by the group. And so I wanted to describe that to people who do my work. I wanted to describe to them who do my work what it's like to do this. So I oftentimes write about, though I keep everybody's confidence. I'm very careful about that. But I want to demonstrate to people this is what we're doing, and try to capture a little bit of the spark that happens in the group, and the way that people are emerging and changing. And like, we got into the business of religion because we got into the notion of transformation. That was a big concept for us, personal transformation through a spiritual kind of connection, And what we experience in this group is some sort of transformative activity. I don't know exactly what to call it, but I wanted to describe that to people who do my work, and also to inspire them to say, you can do this. So I'm often in my circles, I write about this. And I have to say, it's not common what we're doing. I mean, I don't hear from a lot of my colleagues that they're doing this kind of thing. It's not common. And that's another thing I think we both appreciate, that we're into something rare here, rare, delicate, and beautiful. And we can mess it up. You can do too much. I know that sounds strange, but you can do too much to kind of
Yeah.
form this, to shape this. You have to be comfortable letting creativity rise in that place beyond which you're comfortable. That's what I found. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Totally.
And we trust the group, we trust each other, I think, to
Well, I mean, I think it's very unusual for people to view mental health issues, even like they have come, like Pat was saying, at one time, cancer was kind of a shanda. I think having the COVID virus right now, is a shunda. It carries with it a certain amount of shame. Like, what did you do that you got that? Were you not careful? And, people try to stay away from people, which they should, but there's a certain aloneness that happens then to people who are testing positive or waiting for their test results. And I think the discomfort, Jim, that you were talking about, is with these really just long, deeply rooted biases about this. There's no bias about diabetes in general, or there's not a bias about having macular degeneration. But this organ, the brain, has a certain mystique that if yours is not functioning, if you don't get a tune-up, if you need a tune-up, there's something wrong with you. And so many families have somebody that they are unconsciously hiding, and it might even be themselves. And I just think that rabbis who do not see this as part of their spiritual calling are missing the mark. They would not get an A.
It's interesting. Psychiatry means physician of the soul. And I think that's work that rabbis would gravitate toward.
When we first came here, we came here in, 1928. When was it?
Feels like it.
In 1981. And really the model for what we were doing started then, in that there was a wonderful person here, Rose Mass. She was a social worker here in St. Louis. And when I came here, she contacted me, and she had just graduated from the George Warren Brown School of Social Work. And she says, I've been waiting for you. We have to go and do an alcoholism, drug addiction program in our community. You game for this? And I said, yeah, come on. So Rose and I teamed up, and all we did, I said, what do we do? And all we did was we started talking about it. That's all we did. I got up on a pulpit and I started talking about it where I was working. And there was a wonderful man, Bill Kahn, of blessed memory.
At the Federation.
I don't know where is the Federation or the J? I don't know. He did all those jobs here. And he said, we went to him, and he was the kind of guy that if you had a need, he didn't go to a committee. If you had a need, you went to him. I said, he said to me, you want to do this thing? And we said, yeah. He said, what do you need? I said, we need a room. He gave us a room. I said, don't you have to check this with somebody? He says, no, take the room. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for coming, Pat.
See you soon.
Okay,
bye-bye. Thanks for
bye.
all the people you helped.
So he was great, Bill Kahn. I mean, that was his attitude. In Yiddish, it's called avzulaches. You do it in spite of everything, in spite of the difficulties, you do it. And he had that attitude. We're going to do this thing. And he didn't ask anything. He just gave us this room. And Rose and I went there, and once a month we gave this talk, and we advertised it in the paper. And for a year, we talked to each other. Nobody came. And about 6 months into it, Rose said, you think we're doing the right thing? And I said, Rose, I know we're doing the right thing. Nobody's coming. I know it's right, because there was too much stigma attached to it at the time. So we hung in with it. It took a year. And at a year, people started to come. And you know what? They're still coming. We meet twice a week now. That darn meeting has been going since 1981, serving people here in this community with alcoholism and drug addiction. And there's nothing fancy about it. It's just a teaching. It's basically what we do in Shanda. It's basically the same thing. That's what Shanda came out of. It says, well, why don't we just do this for mental health too? Do the same deal. Get people together and let them talk honest and true. And that's how it ran. That's how it started.
To tell the truth, Independence Center started in 1981, and my brother goes to AA a lot. And Rabbi Jim said that our meetings remind him of AA meetings in church basements 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of times alcoholics, when they give up drinking, find out they have a mental illness that they were trying to treat.
Oh yeah, everybody's had a dual diagnosis these days. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been drinking, taking drugs or whatever for 10, 20, 30 years is going to present like they have a mental illness. I mean, that's the way.
The other point is that there are a lot of Jewish families who have lost children because of mental illness.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they lost the child because they didn't come to the meeting or they were hiding it, but it's out there. Suicides, drug addictions of kids that look like they were doing just fine. And there's just a great need for this across our whole community. And I think as Jews, if we really are into Tikkun Olam, this has got to be a major piece.
Susan, the other thing that is in what you said that I really learned at our meeting is it's hard to live with pain, right? It's hard to live with mental illness. It's hard to live with grief. It's hard to live with a world that is so broken and so imperfect. But that's what we have to do as human beings. We're told we have to choose life. It's hard. But when people who are doing that daily share their strength and their hope with each other, it really is beautiful.
So how would little paid advertisement, how would people get onto a Zoom Lo Shanda meeting? How would they do that?
They'd have to contact us. They have to contact us at Central Reform Congregation.
Can they go on to your website and look at your picture?
It'd be best to contact us, one of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can send them we do have a listserv, but the link is on the CRC website.
Yeah.
You can get there from the CRC website.
Central Reform.
It's important to point out that it's not a pity party either,
I'm sorry?
I said it's important to point out it's not a pity party either.
It is not a pity party. It's not at all.
Yeah, that's really important. It's not a sad place. It's really
we tell the truth and we figure out ways to live with it.
And what else is funny is that there's silences that in a lot of situations would be very uncomfortable. But I think our silences bring us together because it brings up this connection, that we're all kind of like absorbing what the person said and identifying with it and relating to it. And even though everybody's mental illness is different, there's something about meeting together that connects us, that, helps us feel better about life, and that, there are people out there that can understand. It's like a place to go to. It's so funny. It's called Lo Shanda, and it's a place exactly like that, to go, to not be ashamed, to be themselves, and regardless, and even what's the opposite of regardless? The fact that we have this thing in common brings you together in a way that you would never have any opportunity, in no other situation that you could, feel this way and experience this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it so special. And it's also interesting, not everybody's not Jewish, which means it's not like it's a club, you know?
Yeah, not
Not a club.
everybody's
Not
Jewish.
everybody's
That's right.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
a pretty diverse group.
It's very good.
Totally.
It's
totally.
racially diverse. It's religiously diverse. You know, also, I'm always impressed at how well people practice good listening, serious listening. I think that's a skill that is just one of the values that's taught in a kind of unself-conscious way. And people learn it from each other. Good, deep listening is practiced in this meeting. And we don't teach it. We don't stress it. We don't articulate it, but people do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody's
And
listening to this,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just was going to say, if anybody's listening to this tonight because they saw that, you know, what the topic was going to be and they're shy or uncomfortable or, you know, are just like afraid to come, to just come once and just see, you know, that this is not like what Pat said, a pity party. This is a place where you can go to and be yourself and talk about things that are, you know, not easy to talk to most people about. And just to meet other people. Like I said, it's so funny. We're all in our own living rooms. You know, we're all talking to each other from our own living rooms
Mhm.
about things that, you know, go on only in your living room, you know. But it's I mean, I'm not like a support group person. Some people like go to a lot of different support groups. I look forward to this every week. There's always something that I walk away and just able to be comfortable about being myself and, you know, getting support. And you know, it really helps get through this by knowing every Sunday at 1 o'clock, I know I'm going to have an hour where I can relax and be myself and feel free to, you know, say whatever and meet other people who are experiencing, you know, difficulties. And one more thing I'm going to say, and then I won't say anymore, but, you know, I have schizoaffective bipolar, and a lot of people who have mental illness that come forward have depression or anxiety. You hear that a lot. I'm not downplaying it, but you don't hear a lot of people, especially in the Jewish community and elsewhere, come out and say that they have schizophrenia. And that's scary for some people. It's scary for people to be around people who have schizophrenia, and people who have schizophrenia is the nature of the illness. Is that you're afraid to be around other people too and open up. But I mean, there are some of us in this group that do have some type of schizophrenia, and that's okay too. And even though our experiences are also different, we can still relate to each other.
See, you know, those labels, there's a spectrum, kind of like autism. There's schizophrenia and bipolar and schizoaffectives in there, someplace in the middle and stuff. But the thing is, it's not just the Jewish community. The Black community has a high stigma towards mental illness. And, you know, just there was a board member who said he was told that as a child that his mom was dead because the family didn't want him to know that she was living in the Northeast with mental illness in an asylum. And that's got to change. That's too much.
Right. That's the Shonda.
Yeah.
You know, until we break that Shonda barrier, we're not going to be able to save lives because, you know, Susan, I do believe, I know so many of those young people who have taken their own lives because they do live with some kind of mental illness. And, you know, they don't, first of all, they don't see that you grow up and there are ways to live with this disease, right? Because in that young person mind, it's, you know, they'd rather check out. and then the other thing is, the other thing that is that nobody promised us that life was going to be easy. Any of us. But we do share tools. We share the tools. And sometimes it's just having a meeting to go to once a week, right? And see into each other's homes. But we share tools that help us hold on to something through this brokenness. I hope. And,
It's so
and
true
we have
that,
to try.
that insight is hard to come by, especially when you're just new to this.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, I have one more thing to say. I remember
Okay.
I was on Romp Room as a kid, and they couldn't shut me up. And now they could say, my mother said that they couldn't have commercials because I kept talking. But now I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh well.
That's okay. I do that all the time.
I don't
Well,
know. Oh well.
it'll come back. So thanks everybody for coming. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We don't over plan. We like it to be conversational, and we're comfortable with whatever rises for a reason, and we like to follow the natural flow of conversation. It's always the best way for us, and it seems to work for us. The less we script these evenings, the better they seem to be. The more.
But I will say that next Thursday night, we will be ending Tish B'Av, the 9th of Av, and we will kind of break our fast together in the Stone Salon and have a program of learning and lament to finish Tisha B'Av and then begin that ascent of consolation. So that'll be
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday night. But this seemed to be the right thing to do as we begin the 9 days, And if you go outside and you look up into the sky, hopefully it's not too cloudy and you can see the new moon of Av that will continue to grow.
And I think, for all those people out there in TV land that, we're so lucky to have Susan and Jim to do this, to put this together, because there's, like Jim has said many times, that he's tried to get the rabbis in St. Louis involved, and for God knows whatever reason, they're just not responsive. And if we didn't have this, there really wouldn't be a Jewish place to go. But not that you have to be Jewish, but just the fact that there's two rabbis that are facilitating, leading this. So we're really, 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 we are so lucky to have you guys.
We feel blessed, and also, it's a whole, it's a team. It takes a village, and one of the people in the village is also Joan Lipkin of the Uppity Theater, who I think I see her name over there, and we are applying for a grant. She's applying for a grant, and we're part of it, so that we can do some playback theater that will again help us to take this message and reach a larger audience. So we're really grateful to Joan and her team and the Uppity Theater people who are going to help us tell the stories.
Have you ever heard of a acting group called Slaying Dragons? They're in business to eradicate the stigma of mental illness. I think, I can't recall her name offhand, who started it, but she came from suffering from depression and just decided to bring the message out across.
We will look into that too. It sounds great.
Well, thanks for being on the big show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody be safe and be well.
Totally. See you next Sunday.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Thanks for
Good night.
sharing a little bit of our family with the people on the salon.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Music.
Bye. Oh, yeah.
Maybe we have just a few minutes left. I don't know if Zacky's still out there. He wants to come on and play a little music.
Get up, get up, get up. Split the darkness with your song. Get up in the darkest part of the night.
There he is.
Hey, there's Zachmo.
Hey, Zach.
Thanks for coming on to the big show, dude.
Zach's in Brooklyn. What's happening, Zach? Can you hear us?
I hear you guys good. You hear me okay?
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
You in Brooklyn?
I'm in Brooklyn, undisclosed.
Huh?
Undisclosed in Brooklyn.
That
That was nice. I like listening to that.
So I'm gonna sing this tune.
I'll noodle along.
Okay, it's in D.
That's the one I can play in.
It's 3 parts from the Book of Lamentations. Get up, get up and sing. The darkest part of the night, sing. When it's the darkest, split the darkness with song. The second part of it is pour out your heart like water. For the face of God, pour out your heart like water before the face of God. So the first response is to split the darkness with your voice. And then the second response is to go deeper and to pour out your heart like water, take it deeper. And then there's a third response. There's a third part of the verse. Silav kapayich, hanefesh olalayich. Lift up your hands for the sake of the soul of the children who are starving at the top of every street. So like, whatever it is, it's not far away, not over there. It's a right here at the top of every street notion. It's right here. Roini valala lerosh shmuros.
ליבך נוכח בני השם. צלב כפייך על נפש עוללייך, עטופים ברעב ראש וחוצות. So lift up your hands, lift up your hands, for the sake of the soul of your young children, starving from hunger at the top of every street. I want to thank everybody for checking in. We can't have a show without some oud.
That's right.
There's no
I think
show
that's been a constant.
without oud.
That was the song was in the Makam of the week. That was Hijaz.
The perfect form.
What's your shul gonna do for Tisha B'Av?
Tisha B'Av, I'm between shuls.
Ah,
I'm released. I think they're doing, they're participating and they're getting involved with some of the J-Fredge work. So J-Fredge has been doing a lot. And
Jay Fridge and Truer. Truer, I think, is doing something too.
yeah, they've been doing great work leading up to it. I don't know what's planned for the day of, and I don't know. I'm on a vow of silence. Till Elul, I'm on a vow of silence. This is my exception.
Well, we appreciate the oud.
Thanks for checking in,
Count on
Zaki.
that every
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, babyface. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Good to see you both.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for coming to the Stone Salon.